In this video, we're going to introduce FizzBuzz, which is a classic problem. This problem requires us to write a function called FizzBuzz, which takes a positive integer as the input. If the integer is divisible by 3, the function returns fizz. If the integer is divisible by 5, the function returns buzz. If the integer is divisible by both 3 and 5, the function returns FizzBuzz. Otherwise, the function returns the original integer. The difficulty of this problem lies in the way that none of the 4 categories is either one or the other. It's very different from the problem of odd number, in which the integers were either odd or even, with no overlap between the two. But here, an integer can be divisible by both 3 and 5, or it can be divisible by either 3 or 5. So for functions like these, syntax plays an important role. Let's begin with an incorrect function first. We will write def FizzBuzz parentheses num and a colon. Then, if num is divisible by 3, the function returns fizz. If num is divisible by 5, the function returns buzz. If num is divisible by both 3 and 5, the function returns FizzBuzz. Note that AND is a logical operator here. If you don't know what a logical operator is, you can look up a definition. Lastly, if none of the above conditions are met, the function goes to the last line and returns num itself. Let's submit the function. Python reported an error. When we use 45 as the input number, we should expect the output to be FizzBuzz. However, the actual output returned by the function is fizz. This is because when the function ran line 2 and determined that the input number can be divided by 3, it ran line 3 and returned fizz. Afterwards, the function ended without running the rest of the statements. To solve this issue, we need to move the statements in line 6 and line 7 up to the top. Let's resubmit the function. This time, the result is correct. Now, we can improve this function by replacing the second line of the code to determine if num is divisible by 15. Let's click Submit. This result is also correct. Now let's take a look at a different solution method to further understand the logic of the conditional statement. First, we define a variable result at the top of the function. Then we assign the value of num to result. Instead of using the return statements, we will assign result according to the outcome of the conditional statement. Lastly, we will return the value of result. Let's submit the function. There is an error. When we use 45 as the input number, we should expect the output to be FizzBuzz. However, the actual output returned by the function is buzz. Now we will introduce a commonly used method of debugging. Let's open up a Jupyter notebook, copy the function, and paste it in the notebook. We will print the result at each step of the code. After the first conditional statement, we add print result can be divided by 15. After the second conditional statement, add print result can be divided by 3. And lastly, we'll add print result can be divided by 5 under the third conditional statement. Lastly, we call the function and put in 45. Let's run it. Because the number 45 meets all of these conditions simultaneously, the variable result was reassigned 3 times by the function. But what we actually want here is when the first conditional statement is true, the function won't run the other 2. To resolve this problem, we can add else under the first conditional statement and indent both the second and the third conditional statements. Let's run it. We get FizzBuzz. Here, only when the first conditional statement is false does the function run the second and the third conditional statement under else. Now let's copy the function back to Python 39 and click Submit. The result is correct. Lastly, let's try to further enhance the function. We'll delete else in line 6 and align the second and the third conditional statements with the first one, and replace if with elif. An elif statement is the equivalent of an else statement, followed by an if statement. Now the function looks even more concise. Let's resubmit it. This result is also correct. To recap, the conditional statement is one of the fundamental concepts in coding, which is used in almost all algorithms. So, it is very important that you fully understand the solutions mentioned in this course and are well versed in the execution logic of the conditional statement.